We're really excited to chat with Brandon Strabala today, and he is the founder of OrgoneKnights and has been creating powerful orgonite healing and transformation tools for over a decade. Tools available for us that utilize ancient technologies of minerals, frequencies, light. And Brandon is one of those masters who's actually working with us to bring all of those technologies back as we move forward this ascension. And he brings the gift of being able to share EMF and 5G protection with the world. The magic of each device is in the mixture of over 50 different crystals. The crystals add beneficial frequencies to the mix of metal shavings and resin. Shungite, Selenite, and Payson Diamonds are used more than the rest as they each provide a significant protection and benefit. And the benefits are numerous and incredible as Orgonite taps into the ever-present energy all around us. And, you know, Brandon, I actually have a few of his Orgonites, and I can attest that they are amazing. And he really is working with these tools to bring forth this fabulous life force energy that we all can tune into and utilize, not for just for the betterment of who we are as individuals, but also for the ascension of humanity. And so it's really, I'm really excited just to be able to chat with him, go really a lot deeper into understanding, you know, this underlying energy, you know, with which he's working and which, you know, is really a part of who we are, whether we call it chi or prana. So I'm really excited to chat with Brandon today. And also, you know, he is based in Sedona and is the dance master. And he is our host of our ecstatic dance on the rocks and also the owner of Sedona Dances. So he really is focused on all these transformational tools for humanity, not just the orgonites that he builds and creates by hand, but also an entire dance community that he builds and supports in Sedona. So it's going to be really fun to chat with him.
We're so happy you're here. I'm thinking the energy of Orgonite will help Tanjila and I with the Mercury retrograde waves of energy.
Yes, let's.
I have a feeling it has a good possibility of doing that.
I believe so too. I'm like so happy all of your Orgonites there in the background to help us stay calm.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear it's there as well.
So Brandon, you know, we're super excited to have you be a part of our Ascension of the Soul conference. And we just want to hear, you know, about you and what does ascension mean to you when you think about ascension, and, you know, what is your place and your role in this through what you do through your Orgonite as well as through your other work. So, you know, we'd love to just get started.
What do I feel ascension is? I feel ascension is kind of, well, us moving up in vibration to a place where I feel we're going to be more in harmony with the planet. And so I see this ascension process as a process of the whole planet becoming aware of certain things and integrating what we now know to create new structures, new paradigms, new ideas that I think are going to create so many new little bubbles of reality. And that's really, I think, what ascension kind of is a different, we're raising to new frequencies, and we're going to see little pocket bubbles of amazingness pop up, and it's just going to spread from there. And it's a really exciting time because I feel there's a lot of tools out there to help us get there. And I feel, I mean, Orgonite's something you can make yourself. So it's not even something, I mean, I was just like, okay, let's make it one day. And then I just never stopped. And now it's 10 years later and I'm still making tons of Orgonite, and it's constantly positive benefits, very few, if any, real negative benefits. And that's our negative claims. But yeah, it's been really interesting to say the least.
So,
but yeah, go ahead.
How did you really get started in working with Orgonite then? What is your background in that? Like, have you been intuitive, or, you know, like how did you get to start this?
Well, actually, I mean, I used to be in finance. So, I mean, I was doing like retirement planning, suit and tie guy. And I kind of learned too much about the Federal Reserve System. And that sent me down a rabbit hole of just all these videos I started watching. And I came across actually spirit science, was just like a cartoon thing, and they had a video on crystals, and I didn't know anything about. I thought a pendulum was magical at this point. Like I was like, oh, penduluming. I'm like, how do you do that? Why don't kind of woke up and went to Denver and learned about crystals, learned about like tarot cards and penduluming and all that stuff, and kind of woke up myself. And it was one of those experiences that, I mean, I still have to write about, but it was a phenomenal experience, because I came back from Denver and I heard about Orgonite and I bought some. And just off a website, I'd been doing tons of research, looking into the science behind it and finding out what was the best. I'm like, ooh, this company looks great. So I bought some, and instantly my roommates started sleeping better. I noticed my garden blew up. I mean, I had all these tomato plants with no tomatoes, and all of a sudden within a week, I had hundreds of tomatoes growing. And within a few months, in our kumquat tree bloomed like 3 rounds of kumquats that season. It was just one of these wild experiences. And then one of my friends found my pyramid on my the front of my car. And he's like, hey, what, you have Orgonite? And I'm like, yeah, you know what that is? And he's like, yeah, I'm right under this giant cell tower. And he had 100-foot cell tower, probably maybe 100 feet away from his house. I mean, it was almost closer to his house than it was tall. And he's like, I've been here 3 weeks and I haven't slept. I haven't slept one day in 3 weeks. I'm probably going to have to move. And so we made a bunch of these ugly muffin pan organites. It was just metal, resin, crystals poured into muffin pans. And immediately he started sleeping better. And then I gave him to 20 more friends, and then they started sleeping better. And I started realizing, I'm like, wow, this is a profound effect. And I'm like, if ugly muffin pans will help people, then I should make them look prettier. And I kept sharing them with people and having more fun with it. And it eventually became a business for me. And I've been doing it now, like I said, for about 10 years and pretty much 7 years full time. And it's definitely been an adventure, but it was a trip to discover this and fall through that rabbit hole and come from finance. I mean, if you had told me 11 years ago that I'd be dancing around on rocks, making crystal pyramids with metal and resin, I'd have thought you were crazy. But it's like when you hit that wake up, it's like it sends you down the rabbit hole, and you can't not do what you know is right at that point. So I couldn't sell finance. I tried selling direct TV after that and realized I can't do anything. I failed so miserably there that I had to just do this. And the universe has kind of allowed me to do it here in Sedona, and it's accepted me in and given me the places to do it. So I feel very blessed to be able to do this and share it with people and help so many people.
That's beautiful, Brandon. What an incredible story.
Amazing. Brandon, the first time I heard of Orgonite many years ago had to do with bringing rain. Actually, I think it was about cloud formation and bringing rain and getting rid of chemtrails. Have you ever heard of using them for that? And then it was too complicated to make.
Absolutely. Actually, I've personally had many experiences with that. I mean, one of the big ones was like the chem busting, and I started studying chem busters, and people build these giant, basically Orgonite, and basically Orgonite is a metal, resin, and crystal mixture. So the Soviets were actually building vats of metal and resin back in the 70s, and it would collect all those frequencies into the metal and resin, but it would collect too many harmful frequencies, and people were getting paralysis. Tumors were developing. I mean, they were like, oh, this is worthless. It's dangerous. It's toxic. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, they declassified it. And then people started putting crystals in it. And basically with the Chembuster, it's a giant bucket full of metal and resin. So it's just a massive super antenna. And they take copper pipes and they blast the good frequencies with the crystals inside. And people started, I made mine with like crystals in the bottom of the copper pipe and the top of the copper pipe with a blend of 50 crystals in the middle of the pipes. And I had like a pyramid this high sitting in the top in the middle of the 6 pipes of or filled with orgonite, and it's sitting under the giant towers here in Sedona, right under all the towers, right on Inspirational up there. There's a bunch of big cell towers, so it's like I put it right there, and it's like I'll notice that for miles around the clouds will be different. And you really do have to look at now at like 20 miles out from Sedona, and you'll actually see what they're trying to do to us. And you'll see that it's actually, we're having a big significant change in the middle of Sedona. I mean, they really have to spray like crazy nonstop. And the moment they stop, it all clears. So it's like they have to spray all day nonstop to get these chemicals. But I notice on those days that they're spraying, people's allergies are up, coughing, headaches, nausea, flu-like symptoms, and I find these do get those energies out. But right now we're being inundated to the point where I'm like, what's it gonna take? It's like these things really do help and work, but we are, I feel, being inundated these days. And that's where the Chem Busters are like a powerhouse, and you put them in the center of your community and it clears for miles. And that's probably the only complaints I've gotten are stuff that big and powerful. Takes some adjusting to get used to. If you put it right next to your bed, expect a week or so of adjusting to the powerful energy that you're sitting next to.
So does size matter? Like how much orgonite? Do you need a lot of this orgonite to clear all those chemtrails up there?
Well, and that's what I started experimenting with 10 years ago. I mean, yes, you can build a giant chem buster, but I find these little ones that, fit in the palm of my hand, this tends to help a whole house. I mean, these days, you might need maybe 2 of these if you're really sensitive just because of the 5G, but it's like one of these is, in 10 years of doing this, never had anyone say they needed more than this. Now, once you get up to like the bigger sizes, so it's like little one or house size, neighborhood size, and then I have some bigger ones that are like, this is like giant neighborhood size. I mean, this thing weighs like 12 pounds of metal inside of it. So it's a ton of, it's surprising how much copper you can fit inside of these things, but it's a beast. And these are the only 2 I've gotten complaints on. In 10 years of doing this, people put them right next to the bed, tell me it's super energizing, and within a few days, they're sleeping great. And so it's like, that's the only complaints I've gotten, or my big ones are too strong. And I do find, when you start putting that much metal inside, it's affecting a much larger area, and you're helping your neighbors, you're helping the whole community. And it's like, and it's kind of showing me that we can help our own communities and build these. And if you start gridding them, and that was the thing I started doing, was gridding these into patterns and noticing that a bunch of little pyramids I made had the same effect as a giant chem buster. And I was clearing just as many clouds, and it's that intention, the orgonite working together, the crystals, and the consciousness of everything, ourselves working with energy and working with that power, whether or not you want to look at it as the crystals actually having the consciousness in themselves, which I feel is definitely a true fact in my life. Our consciousness interacts with it regardless. And it's like what our intentions are, it helps kind of carry that intention throughout. So I have a tendency to actually bring more sun in than I want. And I have a lady that used to sell my orgonite down in Tucson, and she said it rains every day at her house. I'm like, it doesn't rain every day in Tucson. She's like, it rains every day at my house. And I'm just like, that's the kind of cool stuff. That's the power we have to manifest when in conjunction with these tools. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we're 10 times more powerful, but these are tools that are helping to retrain us to these abilities, to these levels of consciousness, to these frequencies. And because I put even 50 crystals in the tiny little, even the little pocket pieces, I smash up 50 crystals, you're getting all those frequencies added into the mix. So it's kind of cool for me because I just get to hear all these cool stories. I mean, yesterday I was at the art show, and one of the ladies came up and she's like, "Oh yeah, I bought one of these last year from you." She's like, "Yeah, we had this weird neighbor. He was coming up and being really aggressive with us, and I took this home, and he stopped coming to my door. He'd stand on the porch, or he'd stand out on the sidewalk. He wouldn't come to the door anymore, and within a short time, he had moved away." And I was like, "That's awesome. I've actually heard quite a few stories like that, and it's really cool to hear more confirmations that people that aren't in really a very positive or good space don't want to be around this stuff, or transition to being more positive just because they're stressed out all the time." And I think that's been one of my big awakenings. Was I started making this, and my sister started being nice to me. And at the time we were just headbutting. I mean, I was like, I have an evil sister. And it was like, then all of a sudden she's like, "Hey, Brandon, I love you." And I'm like, "Oh, where'd you come from?" And she's all nice and sweet and just a beautiful person. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And within a few months, we're good friends again. And I was like, oh, I didn't have an evil sister. I had a stressed out sister. I had someone who was very sensitive in my house, who, once I got this around her, because I buried him under her house. And that was one of the things that I was like, wow, if this stuff is helping her be nice to me, I wonder what happens if I bury it. And so buried it around her house. And then I told her a few months later, after we were friends again, that I'm like, oh yeah, you have a bunch around your house. I thought that this would help, and seems to have helped. So she's like, I don't know what to think about that, but we are friends again. So I don't know. Yeah. Win-win, I guess. Sensitive people are the more these help. But yeah, and
That's incredible, Brandon. I love what you said about the consciousness of who we are, putting our intentions into these crystals and into these tools, and that the crystals themselves have a consciousness. So, what do you actually put into these orgonite pieces, and what does that mean, to you, that, oh, the crystals, do the metals have consciousness, the crystals have consciousness, and how is all of that working together to create these, I mean, and do you think these are ancient technologies that you're working with? I'd love to hear about that.
Well, definitely, I feel ancient technologies. I mean, pyramids are everywhere. So, without a doubt, I'm definitely dealing with ancient technologies. But with regards to intention, and consciousness, that was kind of one of my crystals inside when I smash them. So I smash them up into dust so that I can sprinkle 50 crystals into all of them. And I was like, well, I should probably ask their permission before I start smashing them. And I forgot one time to ask their permission. And of course, I get up and I have the worst ankle injury ever. And I'm like, I couldn't walk on my ankle for like a few days. And I don't ever get injured. I have weird healing, but that's another different story. But okay.
Hey, Brandon.
Sure. But I was like, she'll be back eventually. But what I found was, by asking their permission, they weren't upset. They didn't get angry. They weren't causing me whatever reaction I had at that point, because it was obviously an electromagnetic reaction that caused this injury. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And the only other time that it's ever happened to me that I have this weird injury that I can't explain was when I forgot to hold ceremony before I made my organite. And I always hold ceremony, and I was training somebody and I had just forgotten, and it was just one of those moments of just like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that this time, and I ended up with another leg injury that I couldn't explain. And then I checked in on it, and again, oh, did you guys lose me for a bit?
We did, but you're back. You're back.
Sorry. But yeah, it was, oh shoot, where was I? But yeah, I realized I needed to start doing the ceremony, and that was what I started doing, was holding ceremony more. And what intention do I put into it? And that was kind of something I've been experimenting with. A lot of times, I mean, I have a Hebrew mantra thing that I do, and it's a Shafa, Shalom, Shalu, and it's abundance, Shafa, and Shalom is like peace, prosperity, abundance, like everything good. Shalom is one of the all-encompassing, like good sounds, words. And then Shalu is another word for prosperity, ease and prosperity. So just abundance of everything good, and may it come easily and prosperously. And it was like, that's been my mantra, but I do it in Hebrew now because I feel it's a higher vibration. It shares the intention of what it is I want to portray into the organite. And it's, I feel, been life-changing to the point where it really is powerful to be able to put your intention. And that's where I feel organite is very powerful at doing, is enhancing our intentions. So I try to keep it just that simple intention, because I feel it works most in my life, but it works for everyone else. But if you power it with your intention as well, it's like, I feel it's a conjoined effort. And the crystals and the consciousness within those crystals, it's like the bigger ones, I've had people downright say that they basically communicate with them. Some of them have taken on energies, consciousness. Hold on. And that was one of the things that I even noticed myself, was like, my big Chem buster decided to come to me in a dream and introduce himself as Roger. And then I started communicating with him in meditation, and I was like, Roger. And it was like, come on, there's gotta be another name. I'm like, that's silly. And he's like, no, I want you to say Roger that every time you do it, because he thought it was just the funniest thing in the world. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And then I'm like, but come on, what's your real name? And it's like, then in my mind, I couldn't even say sound popped into my head. It was like a word sound thing. And it's like, he's like, yeah, crystals don't speak. So our names and what we actually call ourselves to each other, yeah, you could never pronounce it. It's unpronounceable. And I was like, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. I'm like, yeah. and to have an idea come into my head that it was like, and at this point I was still kind of waking up. So to be told something where I'm like, I had never even thought of something of that level, and to be told that, it's like, no, that's why I want to be called Roger. And I'm like, oh, that makes more sense. And it was like, that was just one of those moments for me that really woke me up and said, wow, these crystals are conscious. And I mean, I had a friend tell me that she communicated with a crystal skull and told me it was the funniest being that she had ever communicated with. But at this point, I'm just like, okay, you told me that, but I've never experienced it. Now I'm like, oh yeah, that was a level of an experience. Probably if this being he thought he was pretty funny with the Roger that, and I was just like, wow, these crystals are very even positive and upbeat. And I was even talking this weekend with some people about meeting a crystal that was the most uplifting and positive crystal skull that they had ever met, and they spent an hour with it. And it's like, so you start understanding that these crystals, these frequencies, these vibrations have consciousness as well. It's not and I feel more things actually have consciousness than we even realize, and an energy to them. And when we show them respect and honor them, and I feel Orgonite does that, they like even equipment lasts longer. Like I put Orgonite in my car and I feel breaks down a lot less, even though I had a weird thing with my car today. And then it started working all of a sudden. And then it was just like, okay, we got this. Just need a little juice. And so it's just those weird things.
So the Orgonite sounds also as powerful as the crystal skulls, because we did a crystal skull conference 2 weeks ago, and I was blown away with how powerful they are. So do people need to be trained to work with the Orgonite, to work with the crystals so that it can do the job of dissolving negativity and raising frequency? Like, do you offer trainings for people and how to connect to these crystals as part of your work also?
Not yet. I'm like, good idea though. But no, it's actually, and that's a very good question, because I feel very much that we're more powerful than any of these could ever be. Now, not to say they're not very powerful, but us as human beings are like 10,000 times more powerful than I think anything else out there. It's like we are super beings. So we could do any and everything that these Orgonites can do without them, but most of us don't remember how. Most of us don't know how. And that was kind of when I started working with the Orgonite. That was really all I started doing, was just playing with it. It was like, okay, let's go out to nature. Let's sit with it. Let's meditate with it. And I mean, it was years before I started communicating with the Orgonite as like an entity. It was like, for a while, it was just helping me to commune with nature, helping me to get in touch with nature. And it was like, it was a tool. It wasn't, and that's what I feel it's doing, is by putting 50 crystals that are retraining us in 50 good frequencies, it enhances those frequencies within our body that allow us to connect to higher energies, that allow us to go out of our bodies, that allow us to ground ourselves again. All of the above. It's like you get a little bit of everything with all of them. It's like, and I feel it's a good mix of all of them, because I've never gotten a complaint yet. I'm like, the only people that don't notice it are people maybe that aren't sensitive. But then I tell them, I'm like, well, get rid of it and tell me if people around you start acting funky. And they do. And people do. And they ask for another one. And so it's like, they may not be sensitive, but some people are. And it's like, these are tools for those sensitive people to help ground, to help connect. And I don't think there's really, I mean, like, I hadn't really thought about it as a school, but it's like, how do you practice with these? Well, it's getting one and starting small and then working your way up. And I've had a lot of conversations with people that it's like, it's funny, I'd say start with a house size one. And if you feel inclined to help your neighborhood or want to create a bit bigger healing space, then go bigger. But it's like, start small. It's like, there's no need to blast yourself with all these good, go big or go home. It's like, no, ease yourself in, respect and honor the crystals. And when you're ready for a crystal, it was like somebody even yesterday said, Spirit's telling me to not spend excess on crystals. These are all essential. It's like, well, are you asking all the crystals? Do they essentially need to be going to you? Or is it just a mutual, like, oh yeah, it'd be great to go with you, but is it really right? Like, is it really in the highest good? It's like, when you start getting to that level, it's like you have to start asking those questions. And if you're not asking those questions, Spirit says, like, you know, however it does, it passes on these messages to us. It says, no, these are the lessons you need right now. And Mercury retrograde, I feel, has tested me today, and staying calm and communicating properly. And I feel these, like I said, help, but we're more powerful. So we override anything these things are trying to do for us. So if we say, no, you don't work, it's like, they say, okay, fine, I'm out. You can have it. And so that's why I feel they work sometimes better when people hide them under people's beds. So or under people's desks. I've had people hide them all sorts of places and tell me the other person that didn't even know about it's nicer, happier, more positive. I'm like, oh, see, they were just sensitive.
It reminds me of a conference I spoke at years ago, a dowsing conference. And at the dowsing conference was a guy who talked about using the dowsing rods to put out the fires. So as you're talking, I know first we have, and this is me, I realize we have to first learn personally how to manage it. But I'm sitting here going, wow, if we could use those tools I learned in that dowsing class and on the map, put these crystals, and you're telling me we can program those organites to bring rain. Is that right?
Yep. Absolutely. They kind of they're more powerful broadcasters.
Okay. So in other words, really tools, then that if we learn to manage them, then we can actually create shifting, help calm violence or help calm earth, unsettle. It sounds to me like this is a great tool to use when you start to broadcast then to affect change. I mean, there's no way you can use it for bad things, right? It sounds like you can only use that the high, right?
Yes. What was the last part question? You kind of broke up.
Oh, I said, well, I have to check this first, but in my thinking, I'm thinking that the crystals can be programmed to help humanity, help the planet, help bring rain where it's needed, or sunshine where it's needed.
Absolutely. And that's why I feel like the crystal skulls are very powerful, because they actually are able to broadcast that consciousness more consciously. And that's why I say, I'm like, we're more powerful because we can broadcast that consciousness, versus like these are more like super antennas broadcasting. Because I mean, I'll have people tell me these clear out spaces that are filled with crystals that are like as tall as me. So giant, massive crystals are constantly around these people, and they tell me that putting one of these pyramids that's a neighborhood size one is like hugely energetically changing into the space. And I'm like, that seems weird, because you'd think these crystals would be radiating those frequencies and filling it and clearing it and doing that. That's what they're supposed to do. But somebody puts a piece of organite in and tells me, and these are sensitive people that run, I mean, healing centers, crystal shops, all reporting the same thing, that I'm clearing out crystals, or I'm clearing the energy that their crystals aren't clearing. And I'm like, that's weird. And that's where I find it's like there's so much pollution right now going on that we can use our consciousness to broadcast and protect ourselves. And we have that kind of power to do that ourselves. But it's a lot easier to do it when we're going to our unconscious states if we have one of these in our pocket. So it's like it starts enhancing our own physical field so that we're stronger, we're more powerful. But until you're there, this is a great way to get there, because we're all so unconscious these days that the unconscious patterns come in, and we allow stuff in, and we allow energies in, we allow stuff to penetrate our energetic fields in so many ways. I mean, you can look at it scientifically, but it's on every level, from spiritual down to the electromagnetic frequency they're using. I mean, people tell me, they're like, oh, demons like travel on these frequencies. And it's like, it doesn't surprise me. I'm like, I've kind of had experiences in similar ways, and that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, but when you put these around, they don't like to hang around this energy. It saps their energy. So unless you're pouring out, and that was, I think, one of my biggest wake-up calls to that organite works, but we're more powerful, was I lived at a house where I started making it. My roommate had moved up from Mexico, and she was, at the time when she moved in, it was like we didn't worry about locking the house. But by the time I moved out a year late, or 3 years later, and I had just started making organite, it was like, if I didn't lock the house, there was a potential that someone was going to break in and rape her. And I was like, okay, I'll keep the house locked. Don't worry. I'll do that. And then I moved out for a year. And right before I moved back in, somebody came in and broke into the house. They peeled back the door and with a crowbar and then unlocked it from the inside and then got into the house. And I had 2 guy roommates there with a bunch of computers, electronics, and the girl roommate. And luckily no one was home, but they only stole her stuff. Now that's funny. I mean, coincidental in itself, but I moved back in a month later and I am making Orgonite like crazy at this point. And I am like, he comes to me one day, the husband of the girl, and he's like, you need to lock this door. And I'm like, I'm at home right now. I'm not going to lock this door while I'm at home. If I leave, you can guarantee I'll lock the door, but I am not locking this door nor worrying about it while I'm sitting at home. I am not living in that state of fear. Please get out of here. Please go away. I want nothing to do with whatever you're doing. I'll keep the house locked. Don't worry. And that, like 2 days later, I get caught up at work. 30 minutes, like basically it was a good night. They said, hey, you want to stay for a drink? And I'm like, sure, why not? Let's stay. I get home 30 minutes late and I'm pulling right up. And no joke, I hear, right as I get out of my car, I could have sworn I heard a gunshot go off. What the heck? And I saw my roommate's trunk was open. And so I just hustle in the house because I'm like, what the heck was that? And I'm like chilling. I'm like, nobody heard that? Nobody woke up? I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, I'm going to go to bed. And so I go to bed and I wake up the next morning. All 3 of my roommates who had now joined in on the, oh my gosh, we could get broken into because we had one of our stuff. They're all now on the same boat. So all 3, both guys and the girl, they all on the same night left their cars unlocked on the same night and all got robbed on the same night. And I always leave my car unlocked. I never locked it at that point. So if I had been home 30 minutes earlier, I probably would have had my stuff robbed as well. So it was one of these moments where I'm like, I didn't put it out there. I didn't have any fear. I didn't have any energies of saying, this house had been organited. It was my first house that I had organited, but all of a sudden these people were living in a state of fear. They had locks on the doors. They were locking the doors back and forth. You feel so violated even when someone breaks into your house, which I understand. So it is one of those moments of saying, well, we are violated. We've been violated, but now we're going to perpetuate that violation, that victimization, so much so that 3 people will get robbed on the same night after one person got robbed before. And mind you, these people, what got, I think, her there was she watched nothing but crime shows, criminal shows, crime sheets, Prison Break, like How to Catch a Serial Killer. Like that's all of these people watched before the first break-in. Then the second break. And it's like that powerful.
The organite will amplify your human consciousness. Is that what you're saying? If you are thinking positive thoughts, you're going to get positivity. If you're thinking negative thoughts, you are going to get that right back. Oh my God, so fast. It's like a law of attraction enhancer. Are you going to talk about this at the Ascension of the Soul conference? Because this is very exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna have a good talk about power of frequency and how frequency really does affect our lives and what effects some of those frequencies have, and a little bit, probably bring a little more of the science as well behind some of that. Just at least some of, I mean, there's so much out there now. It's really easy just to go find a few things and say, hey, this is really where we're at, and this is what's going on. Is we have frequencies are everything. And I'm finding a lot of these really expensive technologies that are coming out, it's frequency. It's like, that's what's healing. It's all frequency. And you can do it really cheap yourself in your backyard with metal, resin, and crystals. And it's like, but we can do it with our minds too. We don't even need money. We can retrain our minds. We can become powerful beacons of energy. And I definitely want to be teaching that to more people. And I think that's something well, I think other people have used my tools to become better at me at then. So it's something I feel even the soul search community here, really, a lot of them have my Orgonite already, obviously. So it's tools are being used by the people that need to be using them. And those are the people that give me the most praise as far as I've been able to notice.
Brandon, just to like kind of comment on some of the comments coming in from YouTube, we have Kelly. She's saying, "Oh my God, I think I'm seeing this by no accident. I just began a space business and I could use one in my clearing practice." So Kelly, definitely, as Brandon mentioned, a lot of us own Brandon's Orgonite. I actually own, and I actually bought the very, very large ones for each member of my family, and they have them in their homes. And really, there's been, I think as soon as my parents and my brother put it in their homes, there was a definite shift in the energy, in the peace, in the frequency. And so Priscilla is also asking, I'm sure these are a pretty penny. What would you recommend for someone who is relating to you in what you believe and say, but we may be really tight on money since the scamdemic? And Brandon, I'll let you talk about this, but Priscilla, I'll just let you know that the wonderful thing about Brandon's products, and we can take a look at them on organites.com, is that they're really affordable. Really affordable. So
yeah,
Brandon,
I mean, honestly, the $33 pyramid size is enough for the whole house. I mean, I have like $11 pocket pieces that free with the shipping, that if you keep it on you, that's really all you need. I mean, now you can eventually upgrade to the whole house and eventually upgrade to the whole neighborhood, but it's like I said, a little bit goes a long way. For under $30, you can be completely protected in your house.
Wow.
On my website, and it's I've put a lot more of my smaller pieces on there, but that's what my big thing is I want to make it accessible to everybody versus inaccessible.
Great. Priscilla says, thank you with hearts. So,
Wait,
I mean, it's amazing to know that we can access these transformational tools, and it's, they're for everyone. Go ahead, Joan.
they really are.
You're breaking up.
And then, I'm very excited, but I wanted to know, what about flying? If I bring it on the plane with me, which I'm going to once I get them, is it safe for everyone? Is it going to change the, oh my God, I just feel like so excited about
don't bring this size, like, or this one, because it's a weapon. Like, this is the only one I've had a complaint with. Other than that, never had an issue with the disc or a small one or a pocket piece. Just don't bring, especially like these ones. It's just too much of a weapon. Yeah.
Okay.
You get in trouble. At least don't put it in your carry-on. Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon has these great pocket pieces. Like I have unicorns and hearts, and I just keep them in my purse or my pocket, which I think is great. And I just love the way you describe these tools, Brandon, because they really are, they're amplifications of our own consciousness and of our own intention, and bringing this forth. And it's just, like a lot of people are not even thinking about this. So, how do kids respond to these? Like how do, because I'm just thinking as you're talking, like, wow, like we could have these in schools, we could have these in hospitals, like we can have these with, people who are, who are ill. So, have you had people come back to you and say, my child has changed, or, like this has helped me improve health-wise? Have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm like, I've had at least 40 teachers tell me their students calm down in the classrooms. I mean, that's been one of my favorites and it's you're putting 30 kids in the classroom, 30 iPads, 30 cell phones, computers, laptops, iPads, and a cell tower. And you're trying to tell the sensitive kid to calm down. It's like, it's so cruel. Like, come on, really, guys? It's like this is what's going on inside of these kids, and you're telling them to calm down. Oh, that's why they're getting diagnosed with ADHD, and it's not attention hyper deficit disorder. It's called, we're being stressed to the max right now. We're getting blasted, and those teachers tell me the kids calm down with little ones like these pocket ones, and they're in their room. It's like, my future fiance worked on the res last year. in first grade and had many teachers say, how are your kids so calm? Like, it's just one thing after another. I realize it's stress on these kids more than ever. And when you're in a stressful environment, it's even worse. And when you finally get a break from that stress, it's like, oh, I can finally breathe. I can finally relax. Oh, I feel great. Like, this is the best day of my life. I feel amazing. And it's like the kids walk in and finally feel that way for the first time in their life. And I think it's very powerful that, I've had parents hide them under their kids' beds and just be like, I'm just going to put this under their bed. And like, yeah, it worked. Now I have them hiding in their backpacks too. And yeah. So yeah. Definitely feel that.
Impactful, really impactful.
How do we get a hold of these, Brandon, and get a hold of you? Because I'm just odd.
Well, you can go to www.orgonites.com. I'm like, yeah, they're pulling it up there at the bottom of the screen. But I have probably 30 or 40 different styles of pyramids. I have onks there and little like pendants. I've been putting these on my phone for a while now. And for years, I've been offering them with like little stickers. I just finally put them on my website. So you can finally find a lot of my newer designs, my custom designs. I'm starting to 3D print and make my own molds. So even there, I'm having more 10 years later, still like, I have so much to create. And I still am not even close to being done there. So it's keeping things interesting, keeping things more exciting. And that's why you'll definitely be seeing more products, more info. I'm finally putting out more of my wisdom as well. So you can see more of my videos. My how-to at least is on my website right now. And if you check my social media, Orgonites, I've been posting a lot of the info there that I want to share. And you can find me on Facebook and
Brandon,
Instagram.
Priscilla has a question for you as a crystal expert. She's asking, is it bad to accept crystals that are being given to you as a gift and you accept because you don't want to be rude, or what would you suggest? Or does it even matter?
Honestly, I guess it's up to, it depends on how far down. I've had people be like, thank you, that crystal doesn't agree with me. And I don't touch that crystal. I've heard all sorts of different responses. And I feel being honest is the best. Like, if you're like, no, that crystal's not calling to me and I feel it's better off suited with you, I feel passing that message off to that person that's trying to give it away is probably a good thing, because they don't realize that they're giving away crystals that may want to be given away in a more conscious way. And maybe you're the one to give them that opportunity of realizing that. They may not change us as just saying, hey, no, I need to honor myself. And this is how I honor myself. And to do it in a way that also honors them, I think is the best way. Figure out the best way for yourself to do that, where you're honoring yourself, but also honoring the other person. And if they don't feel honored, then you say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dishonor you, but this is just where I sit in honoring myself. And it was nothing to do with you. And if I dishonored you, please, I apologize. And that's the way I feel if we communicate more, I feel we're going to solve more problems. We're going to not have those issues of, I didn't want this crystal, and then feel some animosity towards it, versus saying, I should have spoken my truth right then and there. And I think the universe is calling us right now to do that a lot. So, I think I saw the question for somebody that said, do you ever feel being psychic is a curse? And it's like that again it's like, only if we allow it to be. It really is up to us to make those choices. What are you going to do with it? How are we going to handle it? I'm like, you can try to handle it in your highest good, and then if you mishandle it, to then try to do it right another right way, and to do it, to honor yourself. And regardless of, be like, if someone can't be honored, like, thank you. I realize I can't honor you. And to honor myself, I'm going to walk away. And it's like, that's not wrong either. It's like, but to yell at someone, say, yeah, you're dishonoring me back. I'm mad at you now. And then to storm off, it's like, that's not honoring ourselves either. So it's like, there's good ways and bad ways of dealing with everything. And I think even being a psychic or an energy sensitive person, it's like, we have an opportunity to say, hey, I can turn it down. I can turn the knob down. I can turn the dial down, or I can turn it up when I'm ready to be a psychic, and to realize we have the power to do that, and to master ourselves in ways of saying nothing's a curse unless we allow it to be, and nothing's a gift unless we allow it to be, and everything can be a gift if we honestly allow it to be. And coming from my own experience, I mean, I've had crazy experience that I didn't even talk about here, but it's like, I've gone through some of the worst stuff. I had everything and lost it all, but now I have everything and more, 10 times more than I could have imagined. But I wouldn't be ready for that without losing everything or going through with what I went through. And if I hadn't gone through the hardest parts of my life, I wouldn't be ready for the greatest part of my life right now. And if I hadn't have learned and grown from that, I realized the universe was going to keep showing me that, which it did every time I didn't learn or grow from it. It's like, here you go. You didn't get it. Oh, dang it. This again. I'm the common factor. Shit. That means I got to work on it. I'm sorry. But that's what you have to realize. Like, when you're the common factor, I have this problem with everybody in my life, then I'm the common factor. I need to grow. It's like, this keeps happening to me, then I need to grow. And it's like, that's what I've learned, is it's like the universe is here to give us gifts, but when we don't want to grow from those lessons, it's like, or learn to turn those gifts down or turn those gifts up, because my gift of having too much energy can get me into trouble. So I got to learn to calm it down. And those are things that sometimes I use like plant medicines to help me with. And that's something where it's like a little bit of tobacco or weed is something that will calm me down very quickly, and is a crutch, but also a tool. Just like these can be a crutch and a tool, just like crystals can be a crutch or a tool. And anything can be a crutch or a tool as long as we allow it to be. And that's one of those things where I'm getting to the end of my crutches of plant medicine. It's like, okay, you got to graduate from this, but not quite yet. And the universe will give us those opportunities of saying, hey, no, now you have to. Okay, it's time. And then it's like, okay. And you have to listen at those times, or you hit rock bottom. And that's what I find a lot of people are right now in their lives, running full speed to rock bottom so that they can make that change. And we have to sometimes allow people to do that too. And that's honoring ourselves, is not saying I'm going to hold you up. It's like, I'm going to help you up when you're done. Just know I'm here for you when you're done doing this. And that's Brandon. Even something that came up in my life today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing answers. And one more question coming in for you, just a more technical question, although I love all your questions about consciousness and where we're going with all of this energy. But a question from Core Love: do you use the Russian, Nubian, or Giza pyramid geometry when making your pyramids?
I use the Russian, Giza, Nubian, and 5-sided, but that's not on my website yet. I really need to put these on. So if you really want a 5-sided one, you can private message me and I can do a custom one for you. And then I do a 3-sided one as well, which is not on my website, but I do have some of these as well that some people are called to. But my Giza and my Nubian / Russian pyramids are the most common. So you can find those on my website.
Awesome. And I see that CS, she or he already has put in for some onks. So that's exciting. So it's great to see everyone already interacting. And I really encourage everyone to jump in and check out organites.com and see everything that Brandon's creating. But Brandon, you're also a community organizer with dance. Do you want to just give us a little bit of info on that and what that means for you in terms of raising consciousness and the ascension?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at sedonadances.com. I mean, I've been throwing dances on the rocks for about 4.5 years for anywhere from 20 to a few hundred people. I'm like, usually we get like 50 to 100 people out there every Tuesday, but I've been doing it every single Tuesday for, gosh, yeah, 4.5 years. And I've been doing it in honor of my late wife, who was the dance teacher here in Sedona. And I wrote a book, Dancing Beyond Cancer, that talks about that whole crazy story. But she's been reported to be at these dances that I hold in honor of her. So I'm not sad that she's gone, because she's clearly become our dance guardian angel, as we have now more dance than ever. And that's what I try to do, is share all the dances, build more dance community, build more dance in Sedona, because I feel it's a medicine that's helped so many people. And I feel it's a medicine that's going to continue to help people. And it's so imperative that we keep dancing, especially through these times. So I like to share and be of service in that way, of creating a bigger, stronger dance community. And it's kind of a win-win-win-win, because I get to create a community doing what I love, which is dancing, with people I love doing it with, and I get to share it with them for as a service back to the community. So it's my way of giving back, and I get to benefit from it. So it's like, that's where I feel if we all find our way of giving back that helps us too, it's like there's always win-win when we're all of service to one another. And I think that's what I hope to inspire in other people, is to do that same thing.
Beautiful. And everyone, any of you guys watching, if you come to Sedona, you definitely have to check out Brandon's ecstatic dance on the rocks at Yavapai Vista. I personally believe it's the best and most beautiful ecstatic dance in the world. So it's not being missed. And it's one of the best. When people say, what should I do when I go to Sedona? I was like, well, this is one thing you've got to do. So thanks for bringing our community together in Sedona and raising the vibe and opening up so many portals to ascension for us through dance and through the Orgonite. You know, these are all tools for our transformation, all tools for our ascension. And that's what we're here to really learn and discover together, is that there's just so many different paths, you know, on this journey, and it's different for all of us. So thanks for bringing these tools to us, Brandon.
We will see you next time.
Thank you. Blessings. Thank you both, and blessings to everybody that was watching and will be watching. Thank you.
Yes, thanks so much, Brandon. You have lots of questions coming in, so people are excited. So thank you for sharing.
Tune into the Ascension Conference, guys, and you'll get the rest of the Ascension of the Soul Conference, and you'll get the rest of those answers. Meanwhile, Tanjila, this has been really exciting to find out what Brandon does and the power of Orgonite. I just am so blown away by that.